Okay. So, again, for those of you that don't know, my name is Brooks Bonner. I am the Director of Community Engagement and Enrollment Management for the Organization for Tropical Studies. Basically, what that means is I'm in charge of all the recruitment for our programs, undergraduate programs abroad, and also what it means is I wear a lot of different hats. So OTS, what we do, without getting too much into the details, we're a nonprofit consortium of a bunch of different domestic and international universities and colleges and research institutions with really the idea of promoting scientific research in the tropics. So part of what we do is study abroad programs. Again, that's just a facet of what we do. We own and operate our own field-based research stations where researchers are constantly coming in and out. We got documentary film crews using our field stations, education groups, tourists. And so these study abroad programs are just kind of part of what we do. But really part of our DNA, really part of us is focused on programs that are field programs, so field-based. So these are not going to be kind of traditional type of programs where you're going to be based at a university or a campus. You're actually going to be based at our field stations in and outside of national parks and protected areas, and spending a lot of time in the field, at field stations, visiting important sites throughout the country. But it's very different from a kind of a traditional university or campus style learning environment. So I like to put that out front right away so people know, we get a lot of students that love being outside. So if you don't like being hot, sweaty, or dirty, maybe this isn't the type of program for you. But for a lot of students, that's exactly what they're looking for. Something a little bit different that's going to give them an experience unlike anything else.
So Brooks, I'm just going to interrupt you for a moment because I see that Annalisa has joined us, and I want to reassure her that we have just started the presentation and you haven't missed very much at all.
Absolutely. Just started. Welcome. So in general, we kind of focus on a couple different areas of study. So we look at ecology, tropical biology, conservation, global health, and then something that's not included in there, in the slide there, is disease ecology, okay? And we are just in 2 locations, Costa Rica and South Africa. Now, both of these countries, are very different, as you can imagine. One is in Central America, is really part of the land bridge that connects North and South America, which has created immense levels of biodiversity, which you'll learn about in any of the courses that go to Costa Rica. And then in South Africa, we're obviously in the southern tip of the continent. Where our field station is actually based in Kruger National Park, which is South Africa's oldest and largest national park. We'll go into more details here in a second. But if you look at where we're based, so Kruger is in upper northeast corner of the country. You can see that little yellow tree there, icon. And then over in Costa Rica, we have 3 different field stations. So we have Palo Verde, which is over here inside a national park, Palo Verde National Park, which is in a dry, deciduous tropical forest, which is highly threatened. Then our flagship field station, La Selva Research Station, on the Caribbean side of the mountain range that dissects the country. And then way down here in the south, near the border with Panama, is our Las Cruces Station, which is a pre-montane field station. So you're a little bit higher in elevation, a little bit cooler, but pretty wet, as you will see when you visit our stations. So those are the locations, kind of where we're at. First off, we'll talk a little bit about Costa Rica. So I mentioned before, it's this land bridge that connects North and South America, which has, among other things, really promoted high levels of biodiversity throughout Costa Rica. Lots of different environments. You can travel less than an hour in any direction and be in a totally different ecosystem, totally different environment. You're dealing with a totally different set of species, not only flora, but fauna as well. Several different species of monkeys, high diversity of amphibians, birds, felines, you name it. And we spread out our research stations so you really get a good sense for how diverse the country is. Now, field stations in Costa Rica, as I mentioned before, we have 3, and we'll go into a little bit more details here on each one. So Palo Verde is our smallest field station that is inside a national park. It's the only, it's the only field station in Costa Rica that's inside a national park. Palo Verde is a super important site for bird migration. It's in a wetland, and that national park also is the only national park in Costa Rica that allows for domestic agricultural activities inside the park. So it's kind of an example of a multi-use protected area that has some agriculture, has some cattle grazing incorporated into the management plan of the park. So a very unique location, a unique kind of a unique structure to exist for a national park. But we are based inside that park. It has 2 extreme seasons, the wet season for about 9 months of the year, and then a dry season for about 3 months of the year. But a cool location, and lots of cool opportunities to go on hikes, study birds that travel through and use that area, and also look at invasive species, which is a huge risk to that area, an invasive species that actually comes from Florida. Anyway, before I get too much into the details of that, we'll move on to another field station, La Selva, which is our most popular, largest field station, where really we got our start in Costa Rica. Let's see, we've been there since about 1963. And so the facilities there, it's almost like a little town where you've got Wi-Fi throughout the entire park. 80% of the energy usage comes from solar panels that have been installed over time. There's a river, you can see this photo down here. There's a river that actually dissects the park. And this bridge that you can see the woman walking on connects one side of the field station to the forest and some of the research labs on the other side. Now, talking about La Selva, getting a little map here, getting ourselves oriented. You can see here La Selva is this bright green right here at the bottom. It is its own private protected area that is attached to Brayo Carrillo National Park, which is this large section here that's outlined in black. You can see that green color is all forest canopy, undisturbed primary forest. You can see that the elevation, La Selva is the bottom elevation gradient, kind of at the lowlands of the Caribbean, goes all the way to some of the highest points of the Cordillera, which transects the country. So you can imagine that being at the base of this is a great jumping off point for research, great jumping off point for connecting to large intact areas of habitat. And you can see from the area surrounding the national park, the areas around it are highly disturbed, right? And so it's a great opportunity to explore the biodiversity that is in Costa Rica, as well as take part in a lot of the long-term research projects that are going on at the field station, okay? You can see here some of the other, before I get too into this, you can see to the yellow is all banana plantations, all the pink pineapple plantations. So you can see there's lots of agricultural activities going on in and around not only La Selva, but also Brayo Carrillo National Park. So as part of it, there's, as I mentioned before, Stone Bridge, the famous bridge that connects the 2 sides of the field station. It is a pedestrian bridge. No cars go over this bridge. It's a great opportunity to get a view from the thick forest that you're surrounded by, and also see wildlife. Howler monkeys love to hang out on the suspension bridge, but you do want to be careful. You don't always want to drag your hand along the railing because they will often defecate along the railing. So you want to be careful with that. Again, there's a few more photos of La Selva with the facilities there. Like I said, it's almost like a small town in the middle of the forest, with paved paths, with trails throughout the park. It's come a long ways in the years that it's existed. Anyway, getting on to Las Cruces. which is the Premontaine location down in the south, very close to the border with Panama. It's probably my favorite field station in Costa Rica. It's a little bit cooler, smaller, but in the somewhat isolated location. That region was heavily deforested from the 50s until about the 80s. And the area along our Las Cruces is one of the last intact primary forests in the region. And so the Las Cruces, OTS, and other organizations are really leading a charge to conduct a lot of habitat restoration, ecological restoration in the region. So as students, when you go there, you can participate in much of that ongoing research, participate in reforestation efforts, as well as learn how that region has changed, as well as visit the Wilson Botanical Garden, which is one of the, I believe it's one of the most, it has the second most palm species in any location on the planet. And an amazing place. All right, moving on from Costa Rica to South Africa. South Africa, we've been there about 20 years. It is everything you can imagine a sub-Saharan African ecosystem would be like, in terms of savannas, in terms of open ecosystems, large baobab trees, which is this tree here in the middle we have students sitting in front of, which I recently found out was a succulent, which is kind of amazing to think about. We often think of succulents as being these little small little plants, but this large baobab is also a succulent. Inside Kruger, you have populations of white and black rhinos, African elephants, cheetahs, you name it. So our field station there is fairly new. It is built with a lot of repurposed materials. It has a super low carbon footprint in the sense that it's a living building. So it's designed to stay cool when it's hot outside and hot when it's cold. And that's kind of your hub. It's inside Kruger National Park. It is the only US-based study abroad program that is based inside the park, which means that you have access anywhere in the park as if you were there as a researcher, which students kind of come out at the end saying it feels a little bit more like I'm a researcher by the end of the program than you are actually a student. Huge component of what we do is research, promoting field research skills. And at this field station, you're rubbing elbows with conservation sciences for the entire park, as well as veterinary sciences, which are right next door to our field station. All right, so I'll talk about the programs a little bit. Our kind of flagship program now is the African Ecology and Conservation in South Africa. It's a full semester program. Again, you're based inside Kruger National Park. About half your time's in the park, other half you're bouncing around to other parts of the country. But the focus of this program is to understand open ecosystems, understand how the ecology in Kruger has changed, how it changes with population dynamics of elephants, with rhinos, with the growth of certain species and the decline of other species. How does that impact the balances of savanna ecosystems in and around Kruger National Park? As I mentioned before, Kruger is kind of a long, thin national park. If you connect, our field station is down here, kind of at the joint where it says Kakuza. That's where our field station is located. And in that program, you will drive up and down throughout the program a few times throughout the semester, getting very familiar with every area of the park. The northern part of the park is a lot more dry than the southern part. So the northern part is much more, the habitat, kind of open, dry savannas is much better suited for animals that love to stretch their legs. So you can think of cheetahs, you can think of maybe some African wild dogs, as long as there aren't lions around. Whereas in the south, you have a much more wooded area, which is better for animals that like to hide in those areas. So again, you'll become very familiar with the park. There's a picture here that our station director took of a leopard, and I think Kruger has the highest population of wild leopards on the planet. So wildlife viewing is not going to be a problem if you come to South Africa, that's for sure. Now, not only are you at Kruger, you also visit other important sites throughout the country. You go down to Cape Town, you're in the Western Cape, looking at freshwater ecosystems, looking at habitat fragmentation and how climate change is accelerating the fragmentation of some of those ecosystems. You're going to be looking at tidal systems, understanding how development is impacting the biodiversity in those marine environments. And you're also going to be way up in the north of the country in an area, a national park called Mapungubwe, which is a pretty dry area. And you can see from that photo, there's some baobab trees here in the background that you'll be looking at how they interface with humans and elephants in the environment, and how they've kind of co-evolved together. So research, we talk about it a lot, mostly because students, you'll be doing it a lot on our programs. So in all of our courses, the idea is that students come in with some great research, some great understanding of the sciences, understanding of conservation biology, ecology, tropical biology systems. The idea is we get everyone on the same page in terms of familiarity with Costa Rica and South African ecosystems. And the idea is that partway through the program, you jump on board with different ongoing long-term research projects. So you can kind of get a sense for what it's like to day by day go out in the field, collect data, and then in the evening you go back to the field station, you kind of crunch those numbers, and then you do it all again the next day. So that's part of what you do. The idea is you're building up those skills so that by the end of the program, whether it's a full semester or whether it's just a summer course, is that you're conducting your own independent research project. That can turn into a capstone, that can turn into a thesis. For about a quarter of our students, that comes back in some way as an additional research project, maybe through a graduate program or through an internship space. So there are lots of opportunities if you want to kind of build those field research skills. We offer the programs that allow you to do that. Now, I talked about the African Ecology and Conservation Program. There's a few summer courses that I'm going to briefly talk about, and then I'll open it up. Well, then we'll talk about requirements, and then we'll open up to questions. So Global Health Issues in South Africa is a summer course. Is offered, it's a 4-week single, 1 semester, I guess it's 4 semester credits course, looking at water access as a human rights issue. Obviously looking at the social determinants of health, understanding how development, how socioeconomic status, how gender, how ethnicity, all those things impact someone's access to healthcare, as well as access to clean water. Tropical Biology in Costa Rica, it's a summer course. Again, 4 weeks, it's a 4 semester credits. You'll visit all 3 of our field stations that I talked about before. Really getting kind of understanding the fundamentals of tropical biology, a very fast-paced course. Again, the last little bit, you'll be designing kind of your own short-term independent research project. And there's a great kind of snapshot of Costa Rica. And it's nice for students that maybe can't do a full semester abroad. This is a great way to get some field experience in Costa Rica. Now, there's also a semester program, Tropical Biology on a Changing Planet in Costa Rica, that will be relaunching in 2024 in the spring. So this is something to think about down the road, but a much more amplified version of the last course I was talking about, where you would visit all of our field stations. You're looking at the fundamentals of tropical biology. You're looking at conservation action in Costa Rica, understanding how policy has impacted conservation efforts there, as well as a Spanish language course as one of the 4 courses that you take in that program. So you're actually living with a Costa Rican family in San Jose while you're taking the Spanish course through kind of an immersion style. And as someone that had to learn Spanish later on in life, it's the best way to learn is being immersed in it rather than just learning in the classroom. So again, that's going to be coming in spring 2024. And then last but not least, we have a disease ecology and wildlife management practicum, which is a practicum. So it's not for credit, but it's an opportunity for a lot of students maybe that are on the pre-vet or wildlife management track that are looking to get field experience. It's a 6-week program in Kruger National Park at our field station. And you'll be looking at the impacts on Kruger wildlife, as well as domestic wildlife as well, understanding how, looking at kind of the urbanization gradients, looking from disturbed areas to undisturbed areas, and how disease ecology and some of the environmental factors can impact livestock as well as Cape buffalo, as well as other wild populations. All right, so health and safety. This shouldn't be an issue for most students, but we do require COVID vaccination. There's a few additional steps that we do take once you're in country, and we always follow local kind of guidelines when it comes to public health policies. So some of that means, spreading students out in terms of sleeping arrangements, PPE when necessary, pre-plated meals, things of that nature. So deadlines for our programs, the semester programs, it's generally November for the spring, and then April for the fall, and then the summer, usually those deadlines are around March 1st. We also do have scholarships. So OTS, we manage our own endowment. So we don't want to have financial reasons be the main reason why a student can't participate in our programs. So if that's a concern, I always tell students to apply early. If you apply early, I have a bigger pot of money that I can draw from to give to qualified students. And let's see, prerequisites. So we're looking for all of our courses except for one. We're looking for 2 semesters of college level biology or related coursework. Now that often can mean like an NVS type course would be fine. And then if you had any AP bio credits on your transcript, that would also count for 1 semester. The only course that only requires 1 semester is the global health course. You need to be 18, minimum 2.7 GPA. And you got to be good standing there at Lewis and Clark. And that's basically it. If you want to see more info, follow us on social media. All of our handles are @TropicalStudies. And if you have questions, you can email undergraduate@tropicalstudies.org. Before we get into questions, it would be great if, I wanted to mention this at the beginning, but as a way so I can just kind of follow up and see if you guys have questions after the fact, if you could put your names and emails in the chat, Paulette and I will collect those and we'll send just follow-up emails to see if other questions come up. But at this point, I'd love to open it up to questions. Anything that maybe you need clarification on, or you're unclear about, or more details about the research, or where you go, what a day is like, all that stuff is fair game.
And I should say that while Brooks is here to answer questions about the OTS program, I will happily answer questions about what our practices have been regarding accepting that transfer credit toward the biology major and other Lewis and Clark related questions. So ask away.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So which of those 2 programs would be for the spring semester?
Yeah, so right now there's 2, currently there's 1 semester program that is being offered, and that's the African Ecology and Conservation in South Africa. So that is offered twice a year, in the spring and in the fall. The tropical biology one will be offered, but it's not going to be relaunched until the spring of 2024. Okay. So it'd be a little more than a year from now was when that would start.
Okay.
And when that happens, will it too be offered both in the fall and in the spring?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay.
It used to be that same way. We kind of paused it during the pandemic, and now we're just bringing it back.
Okay, I have a question about that specific program.
Sure.
So did you say that you go to all 3 field stations for that?
Yeah, any program that goes to Costa Rica visits all 3 of our field stations, as well as if you're in the semester program, you visit other sites in addition to those. So you go to a place called Monteverde. You obviously have your homestay, which is in San Jose, in the capital. You also actually spend about a week to 10 days at a field station on the Caribbean side of Panama, an area called Bocas del Toro. So you'll be looking at marine biology. Marine biology will be the focus in that section. So you'll be looking at mangroves as well as coral reefs in that area. It's also a nice way to reset your tourist visa when you leave the country and you come back in.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, could you say the name of that site one more time?
Yeah, so the area is called Bocas del Toro. It's mouth of the bull is what it translates to. So Bocas is Bocas, del, D-E-L, Toro, as in bull, T-O-R-O. That's the general area. It's actually an archipelago. And there's a number of field stations there. I think Smithsonian has a field station. And we have this other field station that we go to. It's beautiful.
And that was in addition to the 3 ones that you had already mentioned, right?
Yeah, so that one, see, so I'm trying to think of all the sites that you go to on the semester program. I want to say it's probably more like 5 or 6 sites that you visit as like official sites where you would stay more than like overnight. There's also another field site called Las Alturas, which is a high altitude remote field site, which is somewhat close to Las Cruces in the south. And you're going to be high up in elevation in a very remote area, which is pretty cool, as well as Monteverde, as well as a few other sites throughout the country. If you want, we haven't got that page up yet, but the semester program page, actually, I was doing work on it today to make sure it was up to date. It should be up in the next few weeks, so you can get all the details about every site that you'll visit as part of that program.
Okay, cool. I have a question for Paulette.
Mhm.
Do you know that program specifically, would it count towards any major credits?
So the semester programs, both in Costa Rica and in South Africa, will definitely have courses in them that will be accepted by the biology department as upper division biology courses because they have a year prerequisite. So in the past, I know that we've had students attend the Costa Rica program pre-pandemic, and I believe that we counted them as 2 upper division biology classes. I can't remember if they both had laboratories or if one did and one didn't. We have a sort of lab, non-lab kind of requirement. So, but it was 2 upper division biology courses. And I'm pretty sure that the South Africa program would transfer the same way.
It's the same structure, so
Yes.
I would imagine.
Yes.
I mean,
one thing to keep in mind when you're comparing these programs possibly to Lewis and Clark's own programs is that you would not satisfy the college's Global Perspectives GE requirement on the OTS program. That has to be a Lewis and Clark class. But the biology courses would definitely transfer as counting toward your major.
Could I ask about you said there's a summer course that's more of a Spanish immersion that has a Spanish immersion component. Is that just for the summer course, or is there sort of an immersion component for this semester course?
yeah, so the Spanish immersion is only in the semester program, this program here. The summer one is just too short to have any kind of Spanish immersion, and also have it focused on the fundamentals of tropical biology. Whereas this program, since it's a full semester, you're taking 4 different classes. One of those 4 classes is a Spanish language and Costa Rican culture course. But there are no prereqs for that. So you could come in not knowing any Spanish, totally fine. It's nice if you do know some Spanish, but it's not a requirement. You can come in not knowing any, and you would probably make some good strides.
Does that program require the global health semester class to get in or no?
This one here,
No, the one that you were just at, the Costa Rica one. Is that only for South Africa? The global health semester class?
Can I,
so
and so if I understand Bella's question, these are all alternative courses. They aren't prerequisites. So there are some 1 credit courses that, one course credit courses that you can take in the summer, or there are 4 course credit courses that you can take during a semester, and they're separate and one isn't required for the other. Is that a get at your question at all?
Kind of. I just saw that it said one of the requirements was you need a global health semester class. And so I'm
yeah.
confused
Oh,
if it
Oh
was-
let's
no,
go
I
back.
think so the prereqs,
Yeah.
what I was referring to was every single one of the programs that I talked about requires 2 semesters of global biology. The only one that doesn't is the global health, which is only 1 semester of biology as a prerequisite.
Got it. Okay, so it's one or the other, not both.
Well, so that 1 semester and 2 semesters refers to how much biology you need to have taken at Lewis and Clark before you can sign up for one of these programs. So you can sign up for the summer global health program if you've only had 1 semester of biology at Lewis and Clark. You can sign up for the Costa Rica or South Africa semester long program if you've had 2 semesters of biology at Lewis and Clark.
Okay, so what about the global health requirement though? I'm just confused on that one.
Yeah, so for the global health course, which is a summer course, the prerequisite is only 1 semester of biology, whereas every
Okay.
other program
Got it.
requires 2 semesters of biology as a prerequisite.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry if that wasn't clear.
For the summer global health program,
Yeah.
where would you be staying? Like, are you staying in that field research center or in community?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix. So you spend some time at our field station, which I talked about, and then you spend other time at different sites. So there is a short visit. There's some visits to rural communities, but there's also, you spend some time, in Johannesburg, visiting clinics, visiting some museums, but it's generally a mix of other field sites and then our own field station in Kruger National Park. You'll probably be in Kruger the last week that you're there, and then the previous 3 weeks you bounce around to different locations throughout South Africa. Kind of the idea of that one is you're comparing access in urban environments, comparing that to access in very rural environments where you've got no running water, you've got electricity for maybe an hour to a day. And so you can imagine that health facility access is very different in a city compared to a rural area. And then there's the other component of how does the role of traditional healers, traditional medicine conflict and or assist with Western medicine and the views on treatments and things of that nature. So it's a very complex environment for public health issues.
Can I ask, do you ever have post-grad students on these trips?
Yeah, so actually we do. Most of these are going to be undergrad only. The disease ecology is one that we do have some 1st and 2nd year graduate students on this program, since it's a not for credit and it's for people that are looking for field experience. This program often is a mix of rising seniors and 1st and 2nd year graduate students. There's also, if you're looking beyond this, OTS has a number of graduate courses in Costa Rica. If you go to our website, there's quite a few graduate courses that would be available to you down the road.
So Noah, one of the reasons that I'm so enthusiastic about the OTS program is that when I was a graduate student in my own PhD program, I took one of the graduate level OTS courses in Costa Rica. So I've been to all these field stations, and seeing these pictures brings back amazing memories of what a life-altering experience that was. But at the same time, the year that I was there was 1978. The only way to get to the La Selva field station was by dugout canoe. There were no roads. There was a generator that supplied a little bit of electricity every day. The conditions are so lavish now compared to what they were when I was there. It's just amazing to see. But these are amazing places, and the organisms that you see there are just mind-blowing. And also the kind of the level of instruction that is provided and the focus on research is another reason why I'm so high on it, because it so aligns so well with what Lewis and Clark wants our students to learn.
I have another question.
Sure.
Is there a time within these trips where, like, if you wanted to plan like a trip somewhere else in Costa Rica, you would be able to for like a weekend or like for spring break within that semester?
Yeah, so each of the semester programs has kind of a midterm break that students are kind of free to do what they want. In Costa Rica itself, it's absolutely open to you as a student. You can take a bus to the beach, or you can go to the mountains, or you can go, where you want to go. The midterm break is really on you, so it's up to you to, get your lodging and get all your meals and things like that. And then in South Africa, what we do is we go down to Cape Town and we put everyone up in a hostel, and we pay for the lodging, but then it's on you to do your own activities and then to buy your meals. Beyond those midterm breaks, OTS covers all the transportation, all your meals, all your lodging throughout the program.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then how do we sign up for the scholarships? Like, where would we find that info?
So on the website, our website, and each program, there's information on the scholarships, which are all kind of the same. We also link to some external scholarships as well. But basically the way the scholarships work is you apply to the program. If you're accepted, we then send you scholarship application, and then you can if you apply, then you can get a result or a response from us before you have to make any type of commitment to the program.
And is that ots.org?
It is tropicalstudies.org.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you mind putting that in the chat for us, please?
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else?
I don't know, this might be on the website, but how much does a semester program cost?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's usually around, so the African Ecology and Conservation right now is 25,400, and that includes everything in the program, all your transportation, all your meals, all your lodging. So again, it's a hefty price tag, but it's also, like I said, it's a different type of program, and that's why we have those endowments, the scholarships available for students to kind of help bridge that gap.
I think I have one more question, sorry.
Sure, no, ask away. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So for the Costa Rica spring program where you stay with a family,
Mhm.
is it usually with other students in the program, or is it by yourself with that one family?
So it really can be up to your preference. So if you would prefer to, stay with the family by yourself, we can do that. Other times we have 2 to 3 students in one household together, and we have all different, we worked with a whole set of families. So it can really be just kind of depending on your interest. And they all work with the Costa Rican Language Academy is who we work with to offer those courses. And they're all close to the campus where you would take those classes. So you can either take a bus or you can walk there. But it's really simple, and many of these families we've been working with for 20 plus years. So it's totally up to you whether if you want to live with a family by yourself, or if you prefer to have other classmates in the same household. It's totally up to you.
And Brooks, so of course you're at the field station for much of the time. So about how long is the period when you are living with a family and doing the Spanish immersion part?
Yeah, so it's a good point. So it's usually about 3 to 4 weeks is
Okay.
when you're in the city of San Jose. And so it's a nice opportunity for you to have a little bit more cultural immersion. You're in the city, you're going to museums, there's some field trips to take you to other important sites in the city. Because the rest of the time you're at field station. So it's a little different. There's also opportunities as well. We've had numerous students that wanted to do extra language immersion, and they maybe come early and they take additional courses at the academy, or you stay later on afterwards and take additional classes that way. And comparing that to South Africa. So South Africa has around 11 official languages, English being one of them. And so there's no official language course as part of the 4 courses that you would take as part of the African Ecology and Conservation. We would do a crash course in Venda, which is one of the languages you would speak in the homestay as part of that program, but it's about a 2 or 3 day homestay. So it's pretty short. You generally have a translator with you throughout that time, but most folks in South Africa do speak English.
Don't be shy about asking a lot of questions. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, it's totally. Asking more than enough questions asking questions is better than no questions, in my opinion.
For the global health program, would you say that it's a really hands-on experience of like experiencing the healthcare system in South Africa and then comparing and like just like in different areas in South Africa as well?
Yeah, that's an aspect of it. Understanding, number one, how does the healthcare system work in South Africa? And a huge part of that is access, because depending on where you are, the needs vary quite a bit. So that's an aspect of it. And then again, as I mentioned before, it's also looking at how perceptions of the type of healthcare, right? Is this a traditional kind of health perspective? There's been lots of issues around malaria treatment, not malaria treatment, but Ebola, and how that is treated and how that conflicts with traditional views of mourning and views of if someone is passing away, how you treat the body, how you interact with the body, and which is not conducive to preventing the spread of disease. So you can see how the views of Western medicine and traditional kind of medicine in those areas can often come into conflict. And so that's something that we look at with that program. And that leads me to talk about, in general at OTS, when we talk about all these courses, it's not so much theory-based as it is issue-based. So we're not going to be asking you to regurgitate theory around conservation or global health issues. But what we are going to do is hopefully we'll get to dive into these issues and then understand how some of those theories impact those issues. So looking at poaching, rhino poaching in Kruger, and not just looking at it from a conservation perspective, but understanding how is it viewed by maybe local people that need the natural resources in the area to survive, compared to maybe how it's viewed in Western culture. So looking at things from an issue-based focus rather than theory-based.
Annalisa, are you a health studies minor?
I'm considering it.
It wouldn't surprise me if the global health course, that's a summer course with one
Yeah.
course, right, Brooks?
One credit, one course
Yeah.
for 4 credits. Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if the health studies folks would accept that as fulfilling one of the health studies elective requirements.
Yeah, that was going to be my second question.
Yes, I
Thank you.
mean, we haven't tested that because we haven't had the health studies minor for
Mhm.
very long, but
Yeah.
knowing its content and what some of the other Lewis and Clark alternatives are, I bet there's a good chance that it would be counted as an elective.
Okay, good to know.
I mean, we could get more information about the syllabus and take it to those folks and ask for a reading on that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share the syllabi for any of these courses. Some are available on the website. Others, just ask and I can send out your way.
People have asked a lot of great questions. Do you think we've
Yeah,
to the end of
I
your list?
guess going once, going twice. I guess if there's nothing else. Yeah, if you have additional questions, I'll try to follow up and send a follow-up email, but you can always, like I said, you can always reach out at undergraduate@tropicalstudies.org. And then again, all of our social media is on Tropical Studies.
Thank you for coming. And if you run into other students who regretted that they weren't able to come to this presentation, please let them know that we have recorded it. And I haven't yet figured out how we're going to make it available, but it will definitely be available. All they have to do is contact me and I can set them up with an opportunity to see it. And because you asked all these questions, you are undoubtedly going to help them too, because probably many of them viewing the presentation are going to have a lot of questions that you by asking them, you helped them get those answers. So thanks very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everyone for coming. And hopefully we'll see you all in South Africa or Costa Rica soon.
Thank you.
Good,
All right.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.